This happened about a month ago. I'd just settled into my quaint cottage at the edge of town. I thought it would be peaceful. I was an environmental scientist ready to dive into my research. The woods surrounded me, providing a perfect escape from the busy city. I had no idea how wrong I was. The first few days were quiet. I worked on my projects, went for walks, and enjoyed coffee at a little shop downtown. It felt normal. Then, on my second night, I sat in my living room shuffling through some notes. I turned on the radio, hoping for some white noise. I tuned the dial. Suddenly it changed. I heard static, then distorted voices. Maybe it was just interference. I didn't think much of it. The next night things felt different. The static returned, louder this time. I heard children giggling mixed with whispering. It sent chills up my spine. Was this really happening? Part of me thought about recording it, but I hesitated. I told myself it was just my imagination. Then I found strange drawings in my mailbox. Horrible sketches with weird symbols. One was a figure in the woods, staring at something I couldn't see. I thought it was kids messing around. But something about it bothered me. I pushed it aside like it didn't matter. Days went by and the whispers grew stronger. I couldn't ignore them anymore. I listened to the radio each night, taking notes. There were patterns in the sounds. Was someone trying to talk to me? Did this signal tie into the woods? I felt uneasy. Then came the moment that made my heart stop. I heard a whisper that clearly said my name. Ethan. My breath caught. Fear gripped me, but I got up to look outside. Nothing was there. The woods were silent, almost mocking me. I returned to my notes, but the unease crawled back. A few nights later, I stood frozen beside the radio. I felt a deep sense of dread. I thought about going out into the woods. My feet wouldn't move. I grabbed my jacket. Just then the static went dead. I held my breath, listening intently. Then I heard it again. Ethan. A voice whispering my name. I felt cold all over. I turned to the window. I needed to see what was out there. My heart raced. I peered into the darkness. I thought maybe I would catch a glimpse of something. Anything. I saw nothing. But I felt it. Eyes were on me, watching from the shadows. I leaned closer to the window, straining to see. I felt the hairs on my neck stand up. I was too scared to step back. What was out there? Maybe I was just being silly. I tried to convince myself, but my instincts said otherwise. The air felt heavy and thick. I knew I couldn't stay still much longer. Then I saw movement, a flash of something darting through the trees. My breath caught again. There was definitely something watching me. It was now or never. I took a deep breath, turned slowly, and opened the door. I felt a rush of cold air wash over me. I stepped outside, my heart racing faster than ever. The air was frigid as I stepped onto the porch, every breath I took visible in the moonlight. I stood there, unsure of where to go. The woods loomed before me, black and foreboding. My heart raced as I remembered the whispers. Something was out there, just out of sight, waiting. I took a cautious step forward. With each step deeper into the woods, the static of the radio echoed in my mind. What was that voice? Why was it calling me? Just ahead, I noticed a clearing. The trees surrounded it like sentinels guarding an ancient secret. As I approached, it felt as if the shadows thickened around me. Goosebumps crawled along my skin. I should have felt more frightened than I did. There was something almost magnetic about the place. Suddenly, I caught sight of something on the ground. I stopped, squinting into the dim light. It was another drawing, half buried in the leaves. I knelt to pick it up, my fingers trembling as I handled the crumpled paper. This one was different. Instead of strange symbols, it depicted a group of shadowy figures standing in the woods, their features obscured, save for one who seemed to be watching me. A chill ran down my spine. I had seen this figure before in the other sketches. It felt as if it were alive, as if it were drawing me in. I glanced around, instinctively checking to see if anyone else was watching, but the woods were quiet. I tucked the drawing into my jacket pocket. Then I looked up and felt that sensation again, eyes watching me. I turned slowly, scanning the tree line. My throat tightened as I realized how vulnerable I was out here. Then, without warning, the world around me shifted. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves violently, and I was hit by a wave of static that seemed to surge from nowhere. My skin prickled, and I staggered back. Then I heard it again, clearer this time. "Ethan." I froze, dread pooling in my stomach. It was different now, more urgent. I turned in the direction of the sound. Shadows flickered in the woods, but I couldn't see anything concrete, just the unsettling feeling of being watched. I backed away slowly, heart pounding. I needed to get back to the safety of my cottage. I turned to run when I heard a snap, like a branch breaking behind me. Fear gripped me, and I spun around. There, just beyond the trees, I saw a figure, the same one from the drawings, watching me. Its form was indistinct, shifting between darkness and shadow, but I could feel it staring right at me. Panic surged. I turned and sprinted back toward my cottage, not daring to look back. The whispers crescendoed around me, calling my name like a twisted lullaby, but I pushed forward. Finally, I reached the door, slamming it shut behind me. I locked it tight, breathing heavily as I leaned against the wood. I knew this was far from over. The darkness wasn't just outside, it had found its way in. What did it want from me? As I caught my breath, I glanced toward the window. I couldn't help myself. I had to look. That's when I saw it, a silhouette standing just beyond the tree line, unmoving. I felt the blood drain from my face. I was not alone. Someone or something was out there, and I had to find out what it wanted. The silence in the cottage was suffocating. I stayed frozen by the door, my breath coming in shallow bursts. The silhouette outside didn't move. I blinked, but the image remained burned in my mind. A dark figure, featureless, almost like a shadow that didn't belong. What was it doing out there? I edged away from the door, trying to gather my thoughts. Maybe I just needed to calm down. My heart still pounded like a drum. The faint whispers still lingered in my ears, taunting me. I couldn't shake the thought of that figure, or the urgency in the voice calling my name. I stumbled away from the door and grabbed my flashlight from the table. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating parts of the room but doing little to ease my growing unease. My eyes darted to the window again. I had to know if it was still there. I crept closer, my feet barely making a sound on the wooden floor. Looking out into the night, the figure was gone. Just the moonlight and trees swaying in the wind. Relief washed over me, but it was brief. Where did it go? I stepped back, trying to think logically. Perhaps it was just my mind playing tricks. I had been so caught up in the drawings and the whispers. Maybe I needed to check them again, figure out what they meant. There had to be a reason for all of this, some connection I was missing. I moved to the table and pulled out the drawings I had collected. A mixture of confusion and dread filled me as I spread them out. There were several images now, all cryptic. Each sketch seemed to pulse with a life of its own under the flashlight beam. I flipped through them, trying to find any clues. As I examined one of the drawings, something fell from the pack. I picked it up. A small, folded piece of paper I hadn't noticed before. I opened it carefully, my hands shaking slightly. The note was barely legible, but I made out a name. Lila. And a date. June 5th, 1998. My mind raced back to the stories I'd heard from locals about a girl who had gone missing in these woods. It was something whispered in cautionary tones at the diner, swept under the rug as if nobody wanted to remember. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Was this connected to the figure? Was it Lila? The thought gripped me with fear, but also a strange sense of urgency. I needed to know more. Before I could think further, I heard a soft scratching sound. My heart stopped. It came from the back door this time, the one I never used. I approached slowly, trying to quiet my breathing. The scratches continued, almost rhythmic. Then, a sudden sharp knock echoed through the cottage. I jumped back, flashlight flickering wildly. My heart raced. Who could it be? Did the figure follow me? I knew I should stay quiet, but curiosity pulled me closer to the door. In one nervous motion, I reached for the doorknob, ready to confront whatever awaited me outside. But as I stood there just about to turn it, the scratching stopped. The air was thick with an ominous tension. I hesitated, my heart pounding louder than before. Something told me I shouldn't open that door, shouldn't. Just as I stepped back, the lights flickered, plunging the room into semi-darkness. That's when I saw something move on the edge of my vision. Panic rose again as I turned away from the door, my flashlight finally dying. A new realization hit me harder than before. I was not alone. Whatever had been calling my name was getting closer. Fear gripped me, cold and unyielding. I stood there in the half-light, heart pounding in my ears, my eyes scanning the room. Shadows danced in the corners, and every creak of the floorboards felt like a warning. I needed to find some source of light, and fast. I fumbled around the table until my hand landed on a matchbook. I lit a small candle I'd left there earlier. The flame flickered to life, casting a dim glow across the room. I had to stay calm. If there was something, someone, moving around in my cottage, then I needed to think clearly. I couldn't shake the note from my mind. Lila. 1998. The town had been unsettled by her disappearance, and now the more I discovered, the more interconnected it all felt. It was almost as if Lila's story was responding to me, pulling me in. Suddenly, there was another sound, this time from the front porch, the unmistakable crunching of gravel underfoot. I froze. I had no idea who was out there. I had to make a decision, get out and face whoever it was, or stay and hope they went away. I looked toward the window, heart racing, and saw a shadow moving in front of the porch light. The figure was back. My mind raced with what to do next. I grabbed the candle and before I could second-guess myself, moved toward the front door. As I reached for the doorknob, I caught a glimpse of something glinting in the light. A knife, maybe? Or just a reflection? My heart sank. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. I was in danger. With a deep breath, I flung open the door. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice wavering slightly. The night air felt heavy and alive, filled with an energy I couldn't understand. There was no answer. The figure stood still, shrouded in shadows. "Hello?" I repeated, a mix of defiance and fear lacing my words. But the silhouette remained mute, watching me. That's when the candle flickered violently, casting longer shadows that danced against the cottage walls. I instinctively stepped back, escalating the tension tenfold. The figure finally took a step toward me, and I caught sight of the outline more clearly. Long hair and a slight build. "Lila," I whispered, instinctively reaching for the note I had found, almost ready to show it to her, as if it carried some magic to explain everything. The figure's eyes glinted in the dim light, a mixture of recognition and something darker. "You weren't supposed to find me," she said, her voice a haunting melody that resonated in my bones. I felt my chest tighten. This was too surreal. Was this really her? Was she a ghost trapped in this nightmare? And if so, what did she mean I wasn't supposed to find her? Before I could respond, she took another step forward. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I was paralyzed. The shadows stretched around her, almost alive as she smiled, a slow, unsettling grin that sent shivers down my spine. "Come with me," she urged, the invitation both sweet and sinister. Just as I was about to respond, the ground beneath me trembled. Everything went dark. The candle flickered out, leaving me in a pitch-black void. I heard a whispered echo just above a breath. "You've come too far." Then there was silence. I blinked, trying to grasp my surroundings. The darkness was thick. It wrapped around me, isolating me in a suffocating silence. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. The last thing I remembered was Lila's haunting smile and those chilling words. Were they still out there? "Lila?" I managed to whisper, but my voice felt lost in the void, swallowed by the oppressive darkness. I shifted my weight from one foot to the other, looking for something, anything that could ground me. Suddenly I felt a cold breeze sweep across my skin. It carried a faint whisper, barely audible but unmistakable. "Come." Panic squeezed my throat. I had to move. I groped my way back toward the doorframe, hoping to find the doorknob, but my fingers met nothing but solid wood. I took a step back, unsure if I was even in my own cottage anymore. Then, without warning, a sliver of light cut through the darkness. I squinted, my heart racing as I felt the sudden flush of hope. The light flickered and expanded into a narrow beam, revealing the outline of a figure standing just beyond the door. My pulse quickened. "This way," the figure beckoned, a silhouette against that glow. I couldn't tell if it was Lila or someone else. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but curiosity anchored me to the spot. "Who are you?" I asked, voice shaky. "Just come," the voice called back, a child's urgency layered with a strange familiarity that disarmed my caution. Torn between fear and an undeniable impulse to follow, I felt myself stepping forward. The light pulsed, growing brighter, illuminating the entrance to my cottage. It seemed to be pulling me toward it. I finally reached the doorway, and as I stepped outside, I gasped. I was no longer in my familiar surroundings. I was in a forest, enveloped in trees that stretched like silent sentinels toward the sky. The air was crisp and filled with an earthy scent I'd long forgotten. In the distance I saw Lila again, but this time she was closer. "We have to hurry," she urged, glancing around. "They're coming." "Who's coming?" I shouted back, but she didn't answer. Instead, she turned and ran deeper into the woods, the glow surrounding her illuminating the path ahead. I hesitated for only a second before following. The ground was soft underfoot, each step both exhilarating and fraught with uncertainty. I could hear the rustling of leaves, hollow echoes indicating that we were not alone. Then I noticed something on the ground, a series of strange symbols carved into the earth. Twisted lines that formed patterns I'd never seen before. My breath caught in my throat. This was more than eerie. It was alien. "Lila, wait!" I called out, the symbols drawing me in. She paused, glancing back at me. "What do you see?" she asked, her voice serious. "They look like some kind of drawings," I managed. "But why are they here?" A look of fear flashed in her eyes. "You mustn't touch them. They trap." Before I could process her words, I heard crashing footsteps behind us. The forest started to grow dimmer, shadows creeping toward us like dark tendrils. "Run!" she shouted. I didn't look back. We sprinted deeper into the shadows, the forest shifting around us. But with every step, dread crept into my heart. I knew we were being hunted. Then everything went black again. I felt the chill of the night air surrounding me instead of chasing shadows. Another voice whispered, this time clearer. "You chose the wrong path." I stumbled, fear clawing at my throat. I felt a surge of dizziness, my surroundings wavering like a mirage. The air pulsed around me as I regained my footing, only to be met by the same oppressive silence. My heart was pounding loud in my ears, almost drowning out the whispers echoing in the distance. "Lila?" I called again, more desperate this time. But there was no answer. Only shadows danced in the corners of my vision, flickering before disappearing when I turned. Panic clawed at me. I hadn't registered where I was. Was this the same forest? Or something darker? Then I caught sight of the symbols again, glowing faintly through the gloom. They seemed to pulse, as if alive. I crouched down to examine them more closely. The designs twisted and curled in ways that didn't make sense. They seemed to watch me, judging my presence. "Don't touch them," echoed in my mind, Lila's warning reverberating like a mantra. But my curiosity had its own grip on me. I hesitated, fingers just an inch away from those strange carvings. I was drawn to them far more than I should have been. This felt like an invitation, a promise of something beyond my understanding. Just then, a rustling broke through the stillness. My head snapped up. The sound came closer, snapping twigs beneath heavy footsteps. I bolted upright, every instinct urging me to run. "Lila?" I called again, fear threading through my voice. This time I heard a response, a childlike giggle but twisted, taunting. "Why do you call for her?" The voice echoed, sounding like it was all around me, layered with distortion. "Who are you?" I shouted, trying to summon courage. "Your choice leads to fascinating games," it answered, speaking in riddles. The air grew colder, each breath escaping my lips in a cloud of mist. My heart raced as the giggles continued growing louder. Another figure emerged from the shadows, but this one wasn't Lila. Its eyes glowed a sinister red, and a wide grin spread across its face. I stumbled back, horrified. "Join us," it whispered, voice dripping with malice. The shadows behind it seemed to swirl, taking on shapes that danced like phantoms. "No, I need to find Lila," I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. Yet the figure stepped closer, its chilling presence suffocating. "Lila is part of the game too. You're just following her into the dark." I felt the ground shift beneath me, the symbols on the forest floor slipping out of focus as I stumbled backward. The realization hit me. This was a trap, and I had fallen right into it. The shadows closed in, the laughter echoing louder until it crescendoed into a cacophony that drowned the world around me. I turned to run, but the trees twisted, blocking my path, their branches like the fingers of some unseen beast, holding me captive. With each passing second, the laughter surged, growing into a frenzied delight. That's when I saw it. The edge of the clearing, a faint light flickering just ahead. Was it a way out, or deeper into the madness? I had to choose. But before I could decide, a heavy thud echoed behind me, and I knew I wasn't alone anymore. I turned, heart racing. The thud reverberated through my chest as dread gripped me. The figure was still there, its gaze fixed, unblinking. I could feel its cold presence trying to wrap around me like a shroud. "Leave me alone," I shouted, voice shaking. I felt small and insubstantial against the weight of that darkness. The creature's grin widened. "Why would I do that? The game has just begun," it said, its voice smooth, like ice sliding over stone. The shadows behind it twisted and coiled, almost as if they were alive, bending toward me with lurking intent. Before I could react, it lurched forward, moving faster than anything should in that choked silence. I dove sideways, narrowly avoiding its clawed hand. The movement sent me tumbling to the ground. My palms scraped against the hard earth as I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline surging. I burst into the clearing, hoping the light would be my salvation. It flickered like a candle, beckoning. But something felt off. The light appeared both inviting and ominous. I hesitated just outside its glow. The figure lingered at the edge of the darkness, shadows shifting in rhythm with its breath. "You really think you can escape?" it taunted. "It's not just a game for me, it's survival." Each word was like a knife, stabbing deeper into my resolve. I couldn't let it win. I had to find Lila. Maybe the light held answers, or at least a chance to break free. With a deep breath, I sprinted toward the light. Just as I crossed the threshold, I felt a burning sensation rise from my feet, pulling me back. It was as if the ground beneath me had turned to flames. I winced, but I pushed forward, determined to escape. The light flickered again, revealing something in its center. A symbol, a drawing similar to what I'd seen before but more elaborate. It wasn't just carved, it was alive, swirling as if painted with light and shadow. "What is that?" I whispered, mesmerized despite the peril at my back. The creature let out a laugh, deep and rumbling. An invitation to the real game. Only the brave make it through. Its eyes glinted, pulling my focus like a magnet. I could feel the shadows creeping closer, hungry. Suddenly the light expanded, enveloping me. The warmth was comforting, a stark contrast to the chill of the figure's presence. But as I looked around, my heart dropped. I was surrounded. The clearing was a circle of the same symbols, pulsating rhythmically. Then everything went dark. I blinked, trying to understand where the light had gone. A whisper brushed my ear. "Darkness has its own truth." I whipped around, searching, but it felt like the shadows had consumed everything. I stumbled, disoriented. This wasn't over. Whatever this was, I would face it. But just as that thought solidified, I felt movement behind me, a figure approaching from the darkness. I spun again, bracing myself for what was next. I blinked hard, trying to get a grip on my surroundings. The darkness was all-consuming, but I could sense a presence moving closer. I stepped back, my breath quickening as I raised my fists, ready to defend myself against whatever came next. "Who's there?" I shouted, though my voice wavered. The only response was silence, an oppressive blanket that pressed down on me. I hated that feeling. It brought with it a sense of helplessness that I couldn't shake. Just as panic began to creep in, a dim light flickered before me. It was weak but enough to cast a soft glow. That's when I saw it, another symbol, the same swirling design from before, etched into the ground, glowing faintly. I stepped closer, drawn to it like a moth to a flame. As I crouched down, memories flooded back. Lila with her sketchbook, proudly showing off her latest drawings. I could almost hear her laughter. Somehow, I knew this was connected to her. Maybe this symbol held a key to understanding the darkness around me. "Don't touch it," a raspy voice broke the silence. My heart nearly stopped. I jerked back, turning to find a figure emerging from the shadows. Unlike the previous creature, this one appeared human, albeit disheveled and wild-eyed. Panic and relief battled for control in my mind. "Who are you?" I demanded, every instinct telling me to stay on guard. "They're coming for you. They want to play," the figure warned, glancing over their shoulder as if the darkness itself was closing in. "You shouldn't have come here." "Play? Is that what this is?" I shot back, frustration bubbling up. "I've got to find my friend. Lila, have you seen her?" The figure hesitated, and my heart sank. "She was never supposed to be here," they muttered, their gaze now fixed on the glowing symbol. "You're tangled in something much bigger than you know." "What does that even mean?" I felt the weight of their words crashing down. How could this get any worse? "Listen." The figure took a step closer, urgency seeping into their tone. "These symbols, they're gateways. They offer power, but they demand something in return. If you're not careful, you could lose everything, including your mind." A chill ran down my spine. The thought of Lila trapped in this chaos fueled my determination. I wouldn't let this happen to her. "I don't care about the price. I need to find her." "Then you're walking into a trap." There was fear in their eyes, and for a fleeting moment I felt a connection. Two souls caught in a web of darkness. "If you cross into the symbol, it could lead you to her, or it could take you further into the dark." "I'll take that chance." I stepped forward, eyes locked on the swirling symbol. But before I could reach it, the ground began to tremble. I looked back to see shadows rising from the edges of the clearing, morphing into ghostly figures. They whispered my name, a cacophony of voices pulling me toward the symbol. "Don't!" the figure cried out, reaching for me, but I couldn't stop. I had no choice. As I touched the glowing path, everything erupted in blinding light. I felt a jolt, as if the ground had opened beneath me. Then I was falling. I landed hard, gasping for breath. Darkness surrounded me, but at least I was no longer alone. "Welcome," a cold voice echoed around me. "Let the game begin." I kept my eyes shut tight, hoping to block out the terrifying voice, but I could feel it wrapping around me like a vine. When I finally opened them again, I was in a vast, dimly lit space, the only source of light a few scattered symbols glowing eerily in the gloom. The walls around me seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy, as if they were alive. "Let the game begin." The voice sounded again, echoing from all directions. I spun around, trying to locate its source, but the darkness wrapped itself around every corner. A shiver ran down my spine. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling a little. I didn't expect a response, but hoped for some clarity, something to ground me in this bizarre place. The silence was heavy, broken only by the soft rustle of what felt like whispers in the air. The symbols on the ground pulsed in time with my heartbeat, a strange rhythm that soothed yet unnerved me at the same time. Each breath I took felt calculated, as if I were playing my part in whatever game had just been sprung upon me. Suddenly, a shadow darted past my periphery, too quick to catch. I whipped my head around and felt a surge of adrenaline rush through me. "Show yourself," I shouted into the darkness, frustration boiling over. I was done being scared. I needed answers. Another flicker of movement and I saw her, a figure cloaked in darkness, too familiar to ignore. "Lila," I breathed, stepping closer. But as I did, she turned quickly, her features obscured by the shadow around her. "Help me!" she cried, her voice echoing and distorted. I could barely recognize it, but I knew it was her. "Where are you?" My heart raced. I moved closer to the source of the sound, desperate to bridge the distance between us. "I'm coming." In an instant, the symbols ignited around me, flaring brightly, and with it the darkness deepened. Lila's figure flickered, like a candle in a storm. "You shouldn't have come here," she warned, her gaze penetrating but frantic. "It's a trap. You must find a way out." A wave of confusion crashed over me. "What do you mean? How do I get you out?" I reached for her, but she faded back into the shadows. Fear gnawed at my insides. I couldn't lose her again. "Do not trust them." Her voice was barely more than a whisper now, but I felt every syllable pull at my heart. "The game isn't what you think. It's worse." The lights of the symbols dimmed and brightened chaotically, casting erratic shadows on the wall. Suddenly a grim laughter echoed, filling the room, sharp like ice. "You're not the one who gets to make the rules here." I turned sharply, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. The laughter faded, replaced by a low rumble that seemed to shake the very ground beneath me. "What do you want?" I called, trying to mask my fear with bravado. "Everything," the voice chortled, the shadows shifting ominously. "But first you must play." I felt a surge of determination replacing the fear within me. I had to find a way to beat whatever was controlling this place. But every instinct told me I was not prepared for what lay ahead. That moment of clarity struck me. The symbols. They had to mean something. I needed to find the one that brought me here. I had to get back to the beginning before this game swallowed me whole. I started moving, scanning the ground for the swirling symbol that had drawn me in. But as I searched, the game was already afoot, and the darkness was stirring. A chill crept in that made my blood run cold. The realization that the rules might not be mine to decide. The shadows shifted around me, wrapping tighter like a cloak of dread. I took a few cautious steps forward, keeping my eyes peeled for that flickering symbol that had brought me here. The laughter echoed again, a harsh, cruel sound mocking my every move, igniting an urge to fight back against the unseen force that wanted to toy with me. "Lila!" I called out, desperate. "Where are you?" But her voice was lost amidst the layers of whispers, a reminder of the urgency laced within my own heart. I buoyed my resolve, fueled by the determination to find her and escape this creeping nightmare. Scanning the ground, I saw glimpses of forbidden symbols, their patterns a jumbled mess that felt absurdly intertwined. In the corner of my eye, a light pulsed, the same glow I had seen earlier, distinct but fleeting. Moving toward it, I almost stumbled over a larger carving in the dirt, its edges raw, the shape resembling a wide spiral, teasing at familiarity. With a deep breath, I knelt before it, hands trembling as I brushed dirt away, feeling the heat radiate from its core. "This is it," I murmured, tracing the outline. "This has to lead back." Just then, shadows licked at the edges of my vision. The laughter returned, pouring from the walls like a sinister fog. "You've made your choice, but every choice has a cost." Across from me, a shadow morphed, taking a form that shimmered momentarily, a grotesque reflection of Lila. "You're playing a dangerous game, Ethan." "Stop! This isn't a game," I yelled, rising to my feet, my heart hammering in my chest. "What do you want from me?" "You are here because you wish it," the voice morphed, taking on a facade of feigned sweetness. "You seek what you've lost, but so much more is at stake. You're not just finding her. You're uncovering all of it." "Uncovering what?" I snapped, rage pushing through the panic. "What has all of this to do with me?" The laughter crescendoed, filling every grain of air around me. "The woods are hungry, child. They want secrets. And you?" The voice lowered, twisting into something malicious. "Are feeding them." I felt the ground vibrate beneath me, as if affirming its hunger. Rage coursed then, and with it came clarity. I wouldn't let whatever dark entity torment me any longer. Ignoring the mocking laughter, I shouted, "Lila! I will find you!" The shadows dimmed, leaving trails of whispers as I focused on the swirling spiral before me, My thoughts raced. What if this symbol is a portal? If I break free here? With renewed determination, I planted my feet firmly, grabbing the edges of the spiral and closing my eyes. This was going to hurt, I instinctively knew that. But pain would be nothing compared to the thought of losing Lila forever. Gathering every ounce of willpower, I pushed into the spiral. It flared to life, radiating warmth mixed with an eerie chill, and I felt it pull me in, curling around my body like a serpent. The shadows clamored in alarm, their voices rising in a cacophony. Just then I felt a surge, a powerful current coursing through my veins. I opened my eyes. Blinding light enveloped me, shifting and swirling. And in that moment, I saw her. Lila. Her face was clearer now, even amongst the chaos. Her expression was a mix of fear and hope. "Ethan?" she gasped, stretching her hand toward me. "Hold on," I bellowed, reaching for her, feeling the connection buzzing between us as the spiraling light tightened its grip. "We're getting out of here!" But the darkness retaliated. It slammed into us like a tidal wave, a final desperate attempt to retain its prey. Tendrils of shadow reached for us, brushing against my skin and melting into a cold terror. I forced myself to stay focused on Lila, holding that image of her tight in my mind as I pushed through the onslaught. The world began to fragment, light and dark swirling violently, blurring images and sounds. I could hear Lila's voice calling out to me, a beacon in the storm, urging me to step beyond the chaos. With another desperate push, I lunged forward, grasping her hand, and felt the energy click and surge. There was a sudden jolt, and in the next heartbeat, I was thrown back into the world. We tumbled onto the forest floor, gasping for air under the night sky, the moon a bright witness overhead. The oppressive weight of the shadows was gone. I looked around, dazed but free. We were back at the edge of the woods, my cottage visible in the distance. The whispers faded, and silence blanketed the trees like a promise, as if the hunger had been temporarily sated. But then as we steadied ourselves, Lila turned to me, eyes wide. "Ethan, it's not over. The woods." I felt a chill afresh, creeping down my spine. "What do you mean?" Her expression was clouded with dread. "They know we're still here." A flicker of shadow danced behind her, and as I turned, the air thrummed with a lingering unease. Whatever darkness had been lurking in that forest hadn't been vanquished. It was just biding its time, patiently watching us from the shadows, ready to pull us back into its depths at any moment. "I need to go," I mumbled, adrenaline still pounding in my veins. An unsettling realization washed over me, a whisper in my own mind. Did we truly escape? Or had we merely crossed into another realm of the unknown? As Lila and I moved away from the trees, the woods loomed behind us, black, silent, hiding secrets yet to be revealed. Some questions lingered unanswered, haunting me like echoes. I hoped I wouldn't have to confront that darkness again, but in my gut, I knew the woods would always call my name.